This video is brought to you by Blessed Be God Boutique, maker of Catholic fashionable apparel, handmade accessories, and more. About 2 weeks ago, I reported to you that in light of political season being near its apex, more so now true than it was even then, we've seen an uptick in the Catholic parishes in major cities and in these more critical places in the ongoing contest being targeted by those who blame the Catholic Church for the actions of some judges for finally ending the ritual sacrifice offered to Moloch that had been enshrined in the law of the United States. They were trying to send a message to Catholics, and they blame Catholics for this because most of the justices who made that ruling were Catholic. It just was the case. Something like 6 of the 9 are Catholic. But they have blamed us for this, despite the fact that half of the people who ruled against it were not Catholic themselves. But I digress. We are the ones blamed for this because the Catholic Church is the one true Church of Christ, and as such, the Catholic Church will always receive the blame for evil things in the culture being suppressed whenever people come to their senses and stop them. It just is the way it works. And we've seen these ramping up. Well, we now have a story from the Catholic League that actually lays all of this out, shows you where this is going, how we got to where we are. So we turn to Catholic League for an article by Bill Donahue, and we get this headline: Catholic churches targeted in New York City. New York City is a place you would expect this kind of thing to happen, unfortunately. Although it does seem like many people in New York City are starting to awaken from the sort of ideological slumber they've been in for the last couple of decades, still, you are not surprised when I tell you that these days in New York City, being a traditional-minded or conservative Catholic isn't exactly the safest thing. This will not surprise anybody, given the sort of temperature there in terms of the political environment, the cultural environment, and the rest of it. Because the Catholic Church has always been on the correct side of all the moral issues. It just has been, because the Church is founded on the Rock of Peter. It was founded by Jesus Christ to communicate Christ's laws and to communicate the saving grace of Jesus Christ to the population. And as such, it will always be the target of these malefactors who want to bring the Church down, who want to impose a revolution, a godless world on humanity. That's what is their aim. And so we turn to this so you can see just how bad this actually has been just in the year 2024. From Mr. Donahue's article, quote, "In the last 6 months, 4 Catholic churches in New York City have been vandalized, and St. Patrick's Cathedral was invaded during Mass for the 2nd time this year. Here are the data. June 11th, 2024, St. Dominic's Church. A man with a hammer went after the statues of Mother Teresa and John the 23rd outside the church, using his hammer on the faces of the statues. He proceeded to damage the glass doors of the church. The result was the perp was arrested for the incident. He has a history of issues of the mind. On June 30th, Holy Family Church, at 5 a.m., a man stopped his taxi on the other side of the street from the church. He then ran across the street and went after a statue of the baby Jesus, resulting in the head of the statue being removed. He was, of course, apprehended and is facing some rather serious offenses for this. One has to wonder why if you are driving a vehicle with a very obvious employer ID number and phone number on it, why you would do such a thing. Perhaps we are seeing the influence of the demonic here. On September 24th, at the presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary Church, a man with a beard and a red t-shirt and baseball jumped over the fence. I'm assuming this is a baseball bat. Jumped over the fence and repeatedly struck the statue of the Virgin Mary outside the rectory. He proceeded to damage and break the hands of the statue. He has not actually been apprehended. On the 6th of October, at St. Francis Cabrini Shrine, a man used black spray paint to deface the statue of Christ with profanity and strange markings. He proceeded to spray paint more profanity on the wall of the church and covered the face of the statue of St. Francis Cabrini with more black spray paint. He has not been caught. October 22nd, just this past week, at St. Therese of Lisieux Church, a man wearing an orange headscarf used a brick to smash the hands of the Virgin Mary and break the cross from the hand of St. Therese. He has not been caught yet. On Easter Sunday, a group of protesters went into St. Patrick's Cathedral during the Saturday night Easter Mass. Standing from center, they unfurled a banner with a depiction of the olive tree and the inscription, "Silence equals the end of life." They were screaming a political slogan. Their allies were heard shouting similar chants from the street. In February, at a funeral service at St. Patrick's Cathedral, men who were very confused about the nature of reality entered. They turned out to honor Cecilia Gentili, who was very confused about the nature of reality. I've actually reported on that story more on this channel in the past when it happened. With the exception of the first incident, all of these crimes are the work of people who are very, very anti-Catholic. They're sending a message to Catholics. Regrettably, too many Catholics, clergy, religious, and lay alike, continue to treat such actions as if they were merely unfortunate episodes. They are not. Those who resort to violence and desecration know exactly what they are doing, end quote. And that is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. They know exactly what it is they're doing. They want Catholicism stricken from the public sphere entirely. And not just the public sphere, let's be real, once it's gone completely from public life, and our religious life is essentially just something we do privately at home and in our parishes, they will eventually try to eliminate that as well. That is the end goal of the demons. The demons do not want the faith practiced, period. They want the Church of Christ stricken from the earth. And when we accept that, we begin to know what it is we're dealing with here. But we have another story on this, unfortunately. This comes to us from the New York Post, who gives us this headline: "Vandal damages century-old statue at Brooklyn Catholic Church, leaving parishioners shocked." Now, this is the New York Post reporting on the 22nd of October incident, just to give you some ideas here. This was such a big incident that it actually made one of the biggest newspapers in the United States. It's starting to get the attention, this pattern of behavior in New York is starting to get the attention of the secular media. And for once, they're actually sympathetic. Perhaps they're reading the signs of the times for themselves, or perhaps it's just that the New York Post, despite all those great faults, is actually the more rational of the newspapers in New York City. I don't know. I'll leave that to you to decide. From the article, quote, "A heartless vandal snuck up on a historic Brooklyn Catholic church in the middle of the night and smashed two statues, including one that is nearly 100 years old," authorities said. The damage at St. Therese of Lisieux Roman Catholic Church on Avenue D in Brooklyn includes a statue of the Virgin Mary, and one of the church's namesake that had been in place since the House of Worship's founding in 1926, church pastor Father Lisieux Augustine told the Post. "A lot of people ask me, 'Father, don't you feel angry?' 'No, I don't feel angry at all,' Augustine said, 'but I'm saddened because when you look at the history of the statue is almost 99 years old. The first time the church was erected here, the statue was also erected." The NYPD is looking for this person who is suspected of damaging two statues of St. Therese of Lisieux at the parish early that morning. "It is sacred, but that sacredness should not be affecting my faith," he said. "It's hurting, but I cannot turn my feelings of frustration, my feelings of pain and the struggle into anger. Anger doesn't bring any changes in my life, and if I'm angry, it's easy for me to instigate my people in that anger." End quote. Generally a good response from the priest, but there is such a thing as righteous anger, and I do think they can apply here. But even then, it's the kind of thing that needs to be very carefully brought up in your life. Righteous anger is one of those things that can very quickly turn into unrighteous, sinful anger. But you're seeing here that this is done with no regard towards decency in the faith. And if that picture that I showed you is of the person who did it, then you have to ask yourself, what is at play here? Is there something demonic going on? Is this just the more diabolical, dirty nature of our culture finally coming to the forefront in this time of increased tense atmosphere we see? It feels like things are reaching a boiling point in the culture, and that's probably because it's political season. And things are going to get real interesting here in the next week, as you know. But I'm curious, what do you think about this? Do you think this is the overtly diabolical? Do you think this is just people who are already fully in the grips of Satan and doing things for political motivation? Do you think it's some sort of combination of the two? Curious what you have to say about this. I do tend to think that we downplay the inspiration of demons in the culture way too much, and it's time we look at that reality and frankly embrace what's really going on, and that way we can do something about it. But I'm curious what you have to say, so let me know in the comments, please. Hey, like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. So does sharing this on social media. That helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.